Good evening and welcome to round 11 here in NPL Victoria. It is the Port Melbourne Sharks taking on South Melbourne here at JL Murphy Reserve. South Melbourne without one very notable name in the starting lineup. The top scorer in the competition, Harry Sawyer, suspended after 5 yellow cards accumulated across the season. He has 11 league goals in 10 appearances. Plus 3 in the Cup and 2 on Wednesday night against Eastern Lions, if you don't mind. So the question is, for Esteban Quintas and the league-leading South Melbourne, can they replace their main man up top? They are undefeated in 10 games, 8 wins and 2 draws, with their second-best attacking record in the competition and the best defence. They have been on an absolute tear over the past month or so. Port Melbourne have hit some form as well. 2 wins from 2. With their leading light Manuel Peters scoring 5 goals in his last 6 appearances. He's one to keep an eye out for. We'll go through the team news for the visitors. 2 changes from the side that defeated Eastern Lions 4-3 in the Doherty Cup midweek. Cooper Halfpenny and Emil Payos dropped to the bench. Harrison Sawyer out through suspension, as I mentioned. In comes Max Mikola back to the starting lineup. Mario Barcia returns from suspension. And George Sitsinaris makes his first competitive start for South Melbourne after coming up through the club's junior ranks since under 15s. Congratulations to him on his starting debut. Javi Lopez is between the sticks. Back 4 unchanged. Morgan Evans, Jake Marshall, Marko Jankovic and Jordan Lampard. Ross Archibald holds down the midfield alongside Barcia with Andy Brennan. And Mikola supporting Noel Bernarda, who is likely to play through the middle as the Sawyer replacement. Very different players, of course. But Noel Bernarda not shy of a goal either. 4 in the league, 3 in the Cup so far this season. And alongside Sawyer, netted a brace against the Eastern Lions on Wednesday. So in good goal-scoring touch to replace the main man. Will Lejeune is the backup goalkeeper. Jack Painter-Andrews on the bench alongside Halfpenny and Payos, with Zach Spiteri and Mac Hilson coming in to the substitutes bench. Mac Hilson in line to make his first appearance. And for Port Melbourne, well, it's pretty simple. They're unchanged from the side who defeated Green Gully 2-1 last week. Ilya Shalamanov-Shrenkov between the sticks. Alex Baker, Maker, and Nathan Hancock are the 3 central defenders, with Mark Latsis and the captain Daniel Edwards at wing-back. Owen Stokes partners Charlie Leach in the middle of the midfield, with Emmanuel Peters through the middle up top, supported by Jackson Courtney Perkins and the former South junior Andrew Mezzaruni, Dane Milovanovic, Atticus Gonzalez, Christian Bombaci, Lucas Burns and Evan Marko Yanakis remain on the pine, with Daniel Cutler dropping out for Ethan Brooks on the substitutes bench for Nick Marinos. And we are away here in Port Melbourne at JL Murphy Reserve. The Sharkies wearing their familiar red and blue. South Melbourne in their all-white away strip. Delight to bring you the coverage this evening. My name is Josh Parrish on behalf of NPL Victoria and Sportscast Australia. As Emmanuel Peters goes down early and wins a free kick off Max Mikola. He was trying to clear the ball, but collected Peters instead. He's a live wire. He gets up gingerly and will run that one off. But an early set-piece chance for Port Melbourne. Oh, and said he'd run it off. I'm not so sure now. Emmanuel Peters has gone down again and will require treatment after that collision. And meanwhile, there are 2 very cultured set-piece specialists standing over this one in Owen Stokes with the right boot and Dan Edwards with the left. Pascalis Natis, the referee today, measuring out that wall. And it's a tall wall too. Very much a team with height on their side, South Melbourne, against most opposition. Edwards steps over it, and it's going to be Owen Stokes to shoot! Owen Stokes picks out the top corner. And South Melbourne go behind in the early moments. Inside 90 seconds. Up where the Spiders live, Owen Stokes absolutely brilliant, and with the first shot of the game, Port Melbourne take a shock lead. Absolutely stunning from the Irishman. He nets his second goal of the season. It's a contender for goal of the week. What a finish that was. It's Courtney Perkins, back to Edwards. Stokes for Leach. And Port Melbourne have a pep in their step now. South Melbourne rocked by that early opener from the Port Melbourne Sharks. Peters goes into Brennan. South Melbourne bench want a free kick. Instead, it'll just be a throw for the home side. Leach. Well, they might be unbeaten, but they're up against it now. Garcia for Lampard. Lovely ball from Jordan Lampard. Here's Brennan. South Melbourne with the instant reply. Noel Bernarda was never going to miss from there. And we're back on level terms. 2 goals inside 4 minutes. And this game is all action early on. Well, it was a quite simple goal. Jordan Lampard knocking the ball in behind. A low ball in from Andy Brennan. And Noel Bernarda made no mistake from point blank range. His 8th goal in all competitions this season. No Harry Sawyer, no problem for South Melbourne, at least in the goal scoring department. And we are off to the races. What a start to this one. Now 2 shots, 2 goals. If that's a portent of things to come, we are in for an absolute barn burner this evening. Brennan looking for Yankovic. Aerial contest won by Shalamanov. Trenkov, the overhead kick is quite spectacular from Bernarda. We've seen him do that before in this league. Shalamanov, Trenkov clutching his shoulder. Looking a little worse for wear after that initial save. But he was equal to it from the Argentinian. Archibald winning a 50-50 in midfield, as he so often does. Knocked back to Shalamanov, Trenkov, who will take no risks in that position. Just an electric start here to this game. Evans goes back to Marshall. Javi Lopez. Oh, Lampard did really well to keep that in play. And in strongly on Peters. No whistle. Latsis went down as well. Referee paying advantage. And he will bring it back for the initial free kick. Foul on Mark Latsis. Things getting pretty testy as these sides trade blows in more ways than one. Hancock, the former South Melbourne player. Didn't get much first team football when he joined them last year. He's starting every week for Port. Takes that free kick down the line. Appeals for a high foot against Peters. Play goes on, and he's a marked man at the moment. 2-3 defenders converging on him every time he gets near the ball, Emmanuel Peters. And he must have been front and centre of Esteban Quintas' scouting report. And what a lovely ball knocked in behind by Max Mikola. Sitsinaris. George Sitsinaris lines one up. And it's friendly fire. It's come off his own player. Noel Bernarda standing in an offside position. Well, if you've tuned in late, you've missed a fair bit. Owen Stokes scoring a quite brilliant free kick into the top corner from the edge of the box inside the first 2 minutes. And South Melbourne with their first attack, replying through Noel Bernarda after a lovely ball in behind from Jordan Lampard. And a squared ball across goal from Andy Brennan. Left Bernarda with the simplest of tap-ins. Lampard gives Bernarda one to chase. Marshalled by Maker. Brennan. Another low ball in, but this time it's intercepted by Hancock. Risky back pass from Stokes. Maker digs it away. Peters. Flicked on. Mezzaruni, another former South player in the Port Melbourne ranks, is irritated by the way he was held back there. Hancock's free kick is taken quickly, and here's Courtney Perkins in behind, but Jake Marshall skimmed a header back to his goalkeeper. It was a crucial touch from the Queenslander. Lopez. Latsis gets in front of Brennan the first time. Oh, and Jordan Lampard tried something a little flashy there. Didn't quite come off. Latsis for Stokes. There's Max Mikola nipping at his heels. Gets it back to Baker. Just a breakneck pace at the start of this game. It's been so good to watch. Leach. Leach looks up and spots the run. Courtney Perkins couldn't quite squeeze it through the gap. Lopez sends it long and high, a real moonraker of a clearance from the Spaniard. Edwards. Mezzaruni wouldn't sit for him. Jankovic hacks it away. In fact, that was Marshall. Barcia fluffs his lines as the ball bobbles up on him. Sitsinaris trying to pick out Bernarda straight away. He won it himself. Big challenge coming in from Baker was a fair one. And Peters wins it off Mikola. And here goes Emmanuel Peters, thought he was held. Play let run. And it was Ross Archibald charging down Maker there. Real lively energy and zip to this affair so far, not just in the 2 goals, but the midfield play that's ensued. Marshall has the eyes up to spot Brennan on the far side, holding off Latsis. Great use of the body from Andy Brennan. Gets to the byline, the cutback for Bernarda, but Dan Edwards just on the scene in time. And now Stokes starts the counter-attack the other way. South Melbourne have bodies back. Mikola. Well, he let it run out, but it wasn't his throw. Max Mikola not best impressed by that decision. Leach. Hancock. Back to Shalamanov-Trenkov. Knocked calmly enough out to Baker at left centre back. And Marshall will let it run through to Lopez. Now, South Melbourne had the wood over Port last season. It hasn't always been the case. 4-0 win at JL Murphy in the corresponding fixture in 2023. 5-2 win for South Melbourne at Lakeside. But historically, this has been a tough place for South Melbourne to come and get points. Leach accelerates past Mikola. Peters picking out Andrew Mezzaruni, and he's missed the target. A chance to come back and haunt his former club, and it's spurned by Andrew Mezzaruni. And he knows he should have done better in that position. Just a golden opportunity for Port Melbourne to retake the lead. Stokes underneath this goal kick, uncontested. Not where Lopez intended to knock it, but Sitsanaris has won the ball in midfield. Bernardo always a chance, even if the pass was less than inviting. Marshall will see this out. Lopez looking for Archibald, who lost his footing. South Melbourne throw. Another long bomb from Lopez. Hancock contesting. Maker back to Baker. And cleared by the goalkeeper into touch again. This is Latsis, skipping away from Lampard. Lovely run from Latsis. Mezzaruni. Andrew Mezzaruni fires wide. Well, he had plenty of other options, but Mezzaruni only had eyes for goal. In the end, all he found was the side netting. Latsis was continuing his run. Peters presenting for a simple ball on the right. Certainly entitled to shoot from that range. Mezzaruni perhaps too anxious to make up for his earlier miss. Leach. Well, I think you'd argue that Port Melbourne have had the better of the chances so far. South Melbourne, aside from the goal and an overhead kick from Bernardo, for all their promising attacking play, haven't really threatened Shalamanov Trenkov since. You can see how well coached and well prepared this Port Melbourne team is on their press, forcing these long bombs from Lopez that haven't led to much joy for South. Of course, no Sawyer in the lineup to win his usual knockdowns and flick-ons. Latsis. Peters. Emmanuel Peters going at Yankovic. Great sliding challenge from Barcia. And now Brennan vaults the challenge of Maquette. Andy Brennan finding Bernardo, who was offside, and gee, he had Archibald and Sitsanaris arriving on the right. Andy Brennan had just waited a moment longer. The whole pitch was opening up for him. Stokes. Lovely weighted ball for Edwards on the angle, and Lopez makes a brilliant stop at his near post. Needed a fingertip. That one was travelling from Edwards. There's plenty of sweet left boots in the competition, but Dan Edwards is right up there. Charlie Leach on the corner for Port Melbourne. Peters offering short. Leach goes for Maker, who can't connect. Edwards spinning away from Sitsinaris. And Courtney Perkins flicks it on. Hancock sliding in on Lopez. Very brave from the Spanish keeper. And Hancock goes into the book. Port Melbourne bench thought it was a fair contest. But Javi Lopez is in some pain here. And on comes the South physio, the reigning goalkeeper of the year, twice in a row. Javi Lopez has taken out the top honour, the Victorian Gloveman. The first booking of the game goes to Nathan Hancock.
Por favor, como siempre, ellos saben. Que lo sigan. Uno lo sigue y el otro cubre.
Well, as we wait for Javi Lopez to go through all the checks here, look at some scores coming in from around the grounds. We had a lot of early kickoffs on Saturday here in NPL Victoria. Altona Magic coming from behind, 2-1 down against Moreland City. Winning goal in the 83rd minute. 3-2 winners over at CB Smith. Manningham United going down 3-2 in a thriller at Petty's Reserve against Dandenong City. George Lambatarides with a double there. And Avondale 0, Green Gully 1 is the eye-catching result of the afternoon. Green Gully are on a terrible losing run of form. Avondale coming off an 8-0 win against Dandenong Thunder last week. A massive boil over at the Reggio Calabria club. Elsewhere in VPL 1, North Geelong 2, Kingston City 1, a late red card I should say, for the Warriors in that one. Melbourne Victory 5, Bulleen Lions 2. It was 3-2, but Victory piled on the goals late, and Eastern Lions 2-1 winners over George Cross. Recovering from that midweek defeat to South Melbourne in the Cup, which I've mentioned. 4-3 the final score at Lakeside. And Eastern Lions must be sick of the sight of Harry Sawyer by now. Over a few years now, it's, I believe, 15 goals in 5 appearances against Eastern Lions, which is just a ridiculous record. Of course, there's a big gap in there where Harry Sawyer went to play for Jamshedpur in India and VPS in Finland, but back with South Melbourne now. Devastating nick, but not available today. And Mikola feigns the long throw and goes short to Barcia instead. And it's clipped to the back post with Shalamanov-Trenkov rising high to pick it off. And he knocks it downfield. Lampard underneath it. Courtney Perkins onto the loose ball. Taken down by Barcia. I think Emmanuel Peters might have liked the advantage there, and he tries to take the free kick quickly. The referee won't let him.
What the fuck is this? Fucking shit decision.
Well, you can hear, I think, over the effects mic, Esteban Quintas less than impressed with the standard of officiating so far. Pascalis Natis, one of the most experienced officials in Victorian football, taking charge of this one. And no one connecting with that free kick. Emmanuel Peters let it run. I think two teammates maybe getting in each other's way. Bit of a miscommunication. Baker. Jankovic. And Max Mikola pulling back. Mark Latzis was always going to be a foul. Latzis facing the wrong way. Probably not the right decision to make. Maker. All over the top, but Jankovic is in the way. Barcia challenging Mezzaruni, and then Lampard puts his foot through it. Now Brennan playing in Mikola. That was a lovely idea from Mikola right on the byline. Bernardo well marshalled by the two Port Melbourne defenders around him. Oh, now Latzis winning a 50-50 with Jankovic, and then going through Ross Archibald. Referee not interested. Lopez, Jankovic. Marshall out to Morgan Evans. Brennan going down under the challenge of Charlie Leach. Narcis says he played the ball. Now Peters finding Dan Edwards on the far side. Edwards for Mezzaruni. Playing in Charlie Leach. He just took a heavy touch and showed too much of the ball to Marko Jankovic there. Away comes Andy Brennan. Great feat to get past Maker. And then a high, hopeful ball. Will just settle comfortably in the gloves of Shalamanov-Trenkov. Owen Stokes frustrated by the lack of options in front of him. Pace has just lulled slightly after that breakneck start, where we got 2 goals inside 4 minutes.
Quick, Jankovic! Quick, Jankovic! Quick!
Archibald off the outside of the boot, still trying to play that early killer pass, South Melbourne. I can understand why, with Port Melbourne keeping quite a high defensive line. Trying to compress the pitch. Hancock for Baker. You can see how Hancock is able to drop into midfield at will. And he's taken down late. And former Port Melbourne player Ross Archibald will see yellow for that challenge. Might be a retaliatory foul for Hancock going through Lopez earlier. Baker. Here comes Maker. South Sudan international. Made the team of the week last week. Man of the match performance against Green Gully. Baker for Courtney Perkins. Edwards making the run wide. There's a little coming together with him and Sitsanaris. I think it was inadvertent. Brennan looking for Archibald. Terrific challenge from Leach, and he skips away and finds Manny Peters for Mezzaruni. Peters knocked back as far as Edwards. Courtney Perkins. And now Owen Stokes unleashing the strike. And it's well wide of the target. Long from Lopez. Barcia. Bit of pinball in Port Melbourne's half. Marshall high into the evening sky. Maker for Edwards. Edwards off the outside of the boots. Here comes Courtney Perkins off the chest. Port Melbourne attacking with serious intent every time they win the ball in those sort of areas. Edwards, lovely touch just to set himself for the cross. No telling contact at the near post. It's a lovely flight on the ball again from Dan Edwards. And the Sharks dictating terms on their own patch at the moment. Maker. Excellent challenge from Bernarda. Archibald for Barcia. Trying to find the feet of Brennan, but Alex Baker was sticking to him tight. You can see South Melbourne are just such a different side without Harry Sawyer, without that focal point. You could say the same when Ajak Riak was missing for portions of last season, including the grand final, of course, that they just weren't the same team. Can they get the job done tonight? They're under the cosh at the moment. Baker for Courtney Perkins. Felled from behind by Morgan Evans. The yellow ticket is coming out. And Port Melbourne have a great set-piece chance again. Just outside the box. On the left-hand side. Dan Edwards and Owen Stokes have the quality to make this dead ball come alive. It's going to be Owen Stokes trying to repeat the trick in the first 2 minutes. Much narrower angle that time and well overhit. Now Lopez in a bit of trouble again. And this does not bode well for South Melbourne if Harry Sawyer is their most important player. Harvey Lopez is not far behind. And to lose both of them would be, if not a killer blow, a sickening one for Esteban Quintas. Injured in that challenge with Nathan Hancock off the set piece. He is very brave when he comes out for those loose balls. There was a similar challenge earlier this season, I believe, against Hume City. left him in a spot of bother. And he's not the only goalkeeper having injury issues. Shalamanov-Trenkov signalling that his shoulder or perhaps his elbow is still giving him some trouble. So this game could really open up if both first-team goalkeepers are forced to withdraw. I think Port Melbourne will wait till half-time to assess that one if they can. Evan Marco Yanakis is the backup for Port Melbourne. Former Hume, Bulleen, Avondale goalkeeper has popped up at a number of different clubs, and for South Melbourne, Willem Lejeune. He's the man they would turn to. Lopez will again shrug it off and try and play through the pain. Not only was he the goalkeeper of the year, he was top in total saves and save percentage. An 83-84% save rate, and his XG differential, if you're into that kind of thing, was absolutely through the roof last season. According to Stats Perform, saving 15 more goals than you'd expect him to save, or expect the average goalkeeper to save, but Javi Lopez is far from the average goalkeeper. Meanwhile, South Melbourne have a free kick, and Max Mikkola lines this one up. We haven't seen any of his trademark long throws. He's pretty good with his feet as well. Mikkola curls one in, lovely shape on it, and Ross Archibald rising to meet that, but just an awkward twist of the body, couldn't get it on target. Archibald, 3 goals, all from those sorts of situations so far this season. He is so prolific from set pieces. And Leach going down under Mikkola's challenge. Mikkola caught the wrong side. Maker. Oh, brilliant ball to find Peters. He didn't have much to aim for there. Peters onto Baker. Stokes looking for the run of Edwards. Shouts of handball came from the bench, but not from the players themselves. Stokes. Courtney Perkins. Fourth official, James Langoya, still in deep conversation with both benches at alternating intervals. You can sense the tension. There's a lot on the line in this game. Maker for Latsis. Latsis for Peters. Peters caught by Barcia and just dwelled on the ball for too long. Maker puts it into touch. And Mikkola will heave it long, looking for Bernarda, and Hancock got there just in time. Has to concede the corner. But it's not just high deliveries into the box from Max Mikkola. He can also make it happen from a long throw, much deeper on the pitch. Such a useful weapon to get South out of their own half, as much as it is to trouble the opposition penalty area. It's going to be Andy Brennan over this corner. 3 in the 6-yard box for South Melbourne. And one of them is Yankovic. Another is Marshall, who couldn't connect. Hancock down on the turf. Meanwhile, Yankovic heads it back out to Brennan. Breezing past Leach, no way past Maker. And South have another corner. Brennan, high one for Shalamanov-Trenkov to come out and claim, and the goalkeeper standing at 6'5" makes South Melbourne's aerial game even less potent than usual. Of course, we won't harp on about Sawyer's absence, but it's hard not to when you see South Melbourne struggling is perhaps the wrong word, but they haven't had it all their own way, and they've had it their own way for most of this season. 4-0 demolition of Dandenong City last week. An example of South at their ruthless, brilliant best. Lopez looking for Archibald for a little flick on for Bernarda. And then Sitsanaris strikes for goal. Owen Stokes in the way. Archibald. Bernarda on the half turn, and it was always drifting wide. Little daisy cutter along the turf. Big game coming up next week, of course. South Melbourne taking on Avondale. Would have been a top-of-the-table clash, but given that Avondale went down against Gully today, it might not be by the time the round is over. And Avondale's assistant coach, Jeff Fleming, in attendance here, scouting next week's opposition. In a sense, not the worst time for Sawyer to pick up a 5th yellow, because you don't want to miss the Avondale game. Lovely work from Baker. And Dan Edwards is going to struggle to get there. Trickles across the goal line for a Javi Lopez goal kick, and I won't say there's no signs of injury for the South goalkeeper, but he seems to be trucking along okay following those 2 injury scares. Make up for Peters. Peters for Mezzaruni. And Courtney Perkins skips past Evans. It's Jackson Courtney Perkins. Big shout for handball from the Sharks bench. And away comes Andy Brennan. Brennan taking on Maker. And it had to be perfectly timed from Maker. Snuffs out that Brennan run. He's so dangerous when he gets going, especially in transition, Andy Brennan. We saw him score an absolutely brilliant goal against Melbourne Knights with a solo slaloming run in the Doherty Cup. And then another chance for Brennan to deliver the killer ball. Can Port Melbourne hold fast here? It's away by Maker. Now Alex Baker looking to prompt the counter-attack, but Courtney Perkins couldn't get there quickly enough. And everyone back defending in the box, and now the flag is up against Noel Bernarda. referee having to have a word with Ilya Shalamanov-Trenkov over the location of this free kick. Back underway. Evans, well up for the free header. Baker. Courtney Perkins. Ball rattle around and back against Courtney Perkins for a south throw. Just in the shadows of half-time now, and fourth official about to add the stoppage. We'll have a few minutes because we had those two goalkeeper injuries to Javi Lopez that halted play. 3 minutes at the end of this half. Here's the magic number. Mezzaruni cursing his missed chances. One in particular where he was through with only Lopez to beat far post and dragged his shot wide. Lopez hangs it high. Barcia to flick it on. Lampard. One for Bernardo to chase. Hancock did just enough. Edwards off the right boot wasn't too convincing. It's off the referee. And now tempers have really started to simmer. Whose ball was it? Will this be a contested drop ball? Charlie Leach not impressed. Up goes the board. 3 minutes indeed. Plus whatever Pascal Isnatis deems necessary. It's going to be a South Melbourne ball. Lampard. It was direct. Mikola was giving away about a foot in height against Maker. Still made a fist of it, mind. Yankovic was looking for Brennan. Lampard. Mikola. Back to Brennan. Oh, just seems to be a missing link in this South attack at the moment. Barcia's challenge deemed clean, and then a big collision between Barcia and Leach, and the Argentinian deemed to have obstructed the Port Melbourne midfielder. Two benches saw that incident very, very differently. And the other notable absentee, and he's on the bench today, Emil Payos, has been rotated. I wonder whether he might be a player to add a little bit of guile and craft to this South Melbourne attack that's been, the goal aside, a little blunt and predictable so far this evening. Of course, there's every chance that Ross Archibald will rise highest off the corner, or Noel Bernardo will muscle his way through. Plenty of attacking firepower, but they generate the chances they need. Brennan off Lampard. Slide came from Latsis. Leach brilliantly finds Mezzaruni. He hasn't got numbers on his side just yet. Mezzaruni. Oh, very cleverly done indeed. And he's drawn a free kick out of Mario Barcia. We know what happened last time. Owen Stokes stood over a dead ball in shooting range. This one will require something even more special. On a slight angle, maybe 25 yards out. Will he shoot? Will he look for a teammate? 3 in the wall for South Melbourne suggests. Well, it will be 4, in fact. Suggests they are concerned about the shot. And it's a rehearsed routine. Stokes unleashes the strike. Well blocked by Barcia, making up for his tackle and conceding the free kick. Lopez opts for the punch.
Hey, come on! Round!
Well, this might be the last action of the first half. Edwards. Couldn't craft space for the cross. And Pascal Isnatis brings the first 45 to a close here. And the unbeaten league leaders have been rocked by an early opener from Owen Stokes. A quite brilliant free kick curled into the top corner from the edge of the box. They responded in kind just moments later through Noel Bernardo after he was teed up by Andy Brennan. And since then, Port Melbourne, they've made a great account of themselves. And the two sides go in level. Andrew Mezzaruni with the best chance for the Sharks to retake the lead. South Melbourne struggling to carve out clear-cut opportunities. What does Esteban Quintas do at halftime? He's usually not shy of an early substitution when things aren't going South Melbourne's way. We'll have to wait and see. Stay with us here on the NPL Victoria live stream. The halftime score at JL Murphy Reserve. Port Melbourne Sharks 1, South Melbourne 1. Welcome back to JL Murphy. Port Melbourne 1, South Melbourne 1 at the break. No apparent changes for either side. There's Owen Stokes who opened the scoring in the 2nd minute. And Noel Bernarda equalising in the 4th. A breakneck start to the game. The pace has settled down a bit since then. But still some marvellous entertainment on offer tonight as the league leaders look to come from behind. Brendan's corner into a dangerous spot. And it's headed over. Well, South Melbourne thought it took a touch off a Port Melbourne player. Referee disagrees. So officially it will go down as a point-blank range miss from Marko Jankovic. South Melbourne almost in front in the opening minute of the 2nd half. The words of Esteban Quintas still ringing in their ears. Absolute swarm of birds going over JL Murphy at the moment. If Port Melbourne can pull off a result here, will certainly set the cat amongst the pigeons in NPL Victoria. South Melbourne's big chance today to go further clear at the top with Avondale losing to Green Gully. But they've found it tough so far. Andrew Mezzaruni, the former South Melbourne junior, with a golden chance to give his side the lead midway through the 1st half. And the follow-up strike, which he blazed into the side netting. South Melbourne have shown promise, but the link-up play and the service to Noel Bernarda hasn't been there, and without their towering target man Harry Sawyer, it's a different proposition. They have to get creative, they have to find alternative ways of generating chances. Mikola with a huge throw. Bernarda battling for it. Now the shot across the bow from Mario Barcia. Never looked in danger of troubling Shalamanov Trenkov.
Fucking go! Fucking go!
A few Port Melbourne appeals, but South Melbourne will have possession. Lopez can only pick out Baker. Leach. Brennan feeds it down the right for Sitsonaris. It's been a quiet debut so far. Starting debut for George Sitsonaris. Has made a handful of substitute appearances. Esteban Quintas hasn't been shy about promoting the young players. Likes of Cooper Halfpenny, Morgan Evans, now a staple of the senior team. He's got Zach Spiteri and Mac Hilson on the bench today. Emmanuel Peters going down in a heap. He suffered an injury knock in the 1st half, seems to have shaken it off. It was in the 1st minute of the game, in fact, winning the free kick from which Owen Stokes opened the scoring. Hancock will win a goal kick against the shins of Bernarda.
Press, press! Fucking go! Go, Andy! Noel, go! Go! Max! 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 Georgie! Max! Come on!
Bernarda getting into a shoving match with Alex Baker.
Mario, Andy, more, centre. Mario,
Here comes the trademark long throw from Max Mikola. Haven't seen it so far this evening. First time South Melbourne and Max Mickler have unleashed the big guns. We'll have to wait until Pascalis Natas has sorted out the Barney in the box. Mickler to the front stick. Away by Hancock. And Mickler sees it out for take two.
George, stay in the middle.
Well, it's turned into quite a chilly evening
Stay.
in this local derby. Two South Side teams who've had so many great matches over the years. Away by Maker, only as far as Sitsonaris. Well, that would have been a way to announce himself. Blazes wide of the target. And the homegrown junior wasn't far away from giving South Melbourne the lead. Would be his first senior goal.
It's a long throw, George.
You can see Sitsonaris and Barcia and Brennan perched on the edge of the area for these second balls. Every Port Melbourne player inside their own 6-yard box. They prepared for this. That's heavy traffic close to goal. And it's just trickled into the side netting, misses everybody. Of course, you can't score directly from a long throw, but you can certainly give every goalkeeper in this league a few butterflies in the pit of their stomach. Leach. Whistle goes against Port Melbourne.
Maybe here, no. I watched one match in China, it was yellow card. Exactly like this. Maybe different.
Melbourne want the back line out quickly. Mark Latsis with a free attack on that ball. Jankovic intercepts. Mickler back the other way. No way past Maker. Sitsonaris. Shirt tug on Archibald. South Melbourne with the numbers now. Bernarda has Mickler in support. It's Max Mickler against Maker. Glorious opportunity. And the Port Melbourne players flying back in defence. It was a desperate situation. And they showed that desperation there. Maybe Lucas Burns getting himself ready for an early appearance off the bench here. Now another long throw. Again, 6-yard box like a tin of sardines. Flicked on by Jake Marshall. And South Melbourne hit the fronts in familiar fashion. It's a captain's goal from Jake Marshall.
Keep going! Hey! Keep going!
Such an impressive leader in that South Melbourne backline. He's not wearing the armband today. But that header was worth its weight in gold. And South Melbourne have come from behind. They've done it the hard way. But the league leaders have the lead at JL Murphy.
Keep going!
Bernardo wins it straight back. And South Melbourne stride forward again through Sitsonaris. Alex Baker on the scene in time. The grand finalists have their tails up. And Port Melbourne, after dictating so much of the first half, are beginning to struggle. And that's going to be the end of Emmanuel Peters' night. Well, that's a sickening blow for Port Melbourne. Not only have they lost the lead, they've lost their leading goal scorer.
2 meters! 2 meters right! Right! Georgie!
He's been rather struggling ever since the opening minute of the game when he was collected for that free kick. Eventually, an injury proved too much for him to withstand. Another dangerous flick on, this time from Jankovic. Port Melbourne get the danger away. Sitsonaris trying to step over the ball. Find Mikola. High foot against Mikola. Edwards takes the free kick quickly. And Mezzaruni is on his own. If Courtney Perkins can find him. Mezzaruni. Oh, and here's the chance for Port Melbourne. Oh, dearie me. The Sharks could have done so much more with that. Harvey Lopez pouncing on the ball. And Lucas Burns with his first touch off the bench. Couldn't make the most of that. Now Ross Archibald down the other end. The game really stretched. Jankovic. Sitsonaris. Archibald. Back to Sitsonaris. Hancock heads away, but only as far as Barcia. Mikola on the half turn. Closed down by Maker. The ball's come back off Maker. And Hancock left a trailing leg. And the referees waved it away. South Melbourne were absolutely certain that was a spot kick. And from our commentary position, it looked absolutely ironclad. We'll have to have another look at that one. Major moment of contention in this game. Has he got the ball first there, Hancock? Oh, just maybe. He got there in time. Well, credit to the defender upon examination of the replay. It looks to exonerate him, and a good decision from Pascalis Nartis. Meanwhile, Shalamanov-Trenkov has smashed into his own post. There's a crowd of bodies around him. He went double-handed to fist the ball away. And Port Melbourne in all sorts of bother. Again, a breakneck start to the half. We had incredible entertainment at the start of the first half, and the second has delivered in spades. South Melbourne lead through Jake Marshall.
George, come on, George!
Brennan to the near stick. Dan Edwards away. And now Max Mikola will dry off that ball. Step out his run-up. And send another long bomb into the Port Melbourne area. It's peak hour traffic in the 6-yard box. Absolute gridlock. Jankovic helps it on. It's always drifting too wide. Port Melbourne preparing a second change. Baker.
Go! Come on!
Courtney Perkins with the chest. Sitsinaris turns the other way for South. Great ball in from Sitsinaris. And then Barcia strikes first time. And it's a wild effort from the Argentine.
Now
Bernardo making a nuisance of himself against Hancock. Maker there to cover. Burns. No way past Lampard. Going to be a Port Melbourne ball. It's a change impending. Oh, and a great save from Shalamanov-Trenkov. A snapshot coming in from Andy Brennan. And Port Melbourne are seriously up against the tide now. Mikola. High hopeful ball. Marshall. Yankovic. Was that a handball? And Jake Marshall sends that ball about 3 miles into Rosed. And this is an interesting one. There must have been a late change to the team sheet that Port Melbourne supply, because Fraser Dunlop is not on the card, but he's on the pitch. Mark Latsis goes to the bench, a straight swap at right wing back. Edwards with the throw. Marshall. Oh, he's just imperious at the moment, Jake Marshall. You can't get past him. Evans. Helped on by Archibald. And there was a foul off the ball. Alex Baker, the guilty party, with his arms wrapped around Noel Bernardo. He protests his innocence. South Melbourne have looked a different proposition after half-time.
Second with Mario. KP. George, drop 4 or 5. George.
Mikola aims for the far post. It's drifted a long way from even his furthest teammate. That's a poor ball by his standards. Maker. South Melbourne impeding Port Melbourne's progression here, and whistle goes. Nick Marinos wants a yellow card. Shalamanov-Trenkov rushed into the clearance by the South Melbourne press. They've just been so much more active, so much further up the pitch in this half. Just not giving the Port Melbourne backline or goalkeeper any time on the ball, forcing them into mistakes and keeping that ball locked in their attacking half. Been so much more positive in the first half, where they looked a little lost, a little out of ideas at 1-1. Edwards. Stokes. Hancock in all sorts of trouble. It's Noel Bernardo. South Melbourne have 3. Noel Bernardo delivers once again. Nathan Hancock Caught in possession. And he is punished ruthlessly by the Argentine assassin. 6 league goals so far this season. 9 in all competitions for Noel Bernardo. And since his arrival from Green Gully in the off-season, Esteban Quintas has unlocked every inch of his attacking potential. Oh, straight under pressure was Owen Stokes, and Port Melbourne folding like a lawn chair at the moment. Sitsanaris up with the contested header. It was Shalamanov Trenkov, and he's clattered into Bernardo. And after having injury problems, not only early in this half, but in the first half as well, Shalamanov Trenkov is in all sorts of pain. Back up to his feet now, and there's worries for Maker as well. Well, it's all been undone so quickly. So much of their good work, Port Melbourne. Not a free kick. Nick Marinos can't believe it. It's going to be a drop ball.
Keep going. Go south. Come on, Max. Come on, Adi. Vamos, Nahuelín. Vamos, metele. Go, go, go.
Yankovic. Maker. Lovely cushion touch out to Fraser Dunlop. Lucas Burns caught on the half turn. Oh, that's a bad challenge. And a yellow ticket shown. Lucas Burns goes into the book. And Port Melbourne's frustrations beginning to boil over. Is that Max Mikola who's down? I believe so. One of South Melbourne's most potent weapons. Let's hope he's fit to continue. Back underway.
Press, Shorty, go! Go! Go, Shorty! Go, Shorty! Go!
Leach.
Yes!
Can't get free of the press. Mikola. Barcia. Port Melbourne come the other way through Burns and then Dunlop. Lampard chasing back. Yankovic smashes it over the roof of the grandstand. Some of these emphatic South Melbourne clearances, they're going to need a few volunteers on match ball fetching duty after the game. Courtney Perkins. Oh, Courtney Perkins has won it back off Evans. Oh, Barcia very, very anxious not to concede a penalty. And a strike comes in. What a pile driver from Baker. Saved by Lopez and then fired over. Fraser Dunlop couldn't find the target. Alex Baker, the central defender, with a very sweet hit from a long way out.
Shot! Shot!
Maker flies over the pack. South Melbourne preparing a change of their own. Baker. Oh, difficult ball for Edwards, and South Melbourne could capitalise through Sitsinaris. George Sitsinaris fires it across the box. Mikler on his left, and Hancock had time to close him down. Bernarda didn't get a touch on that, and a vicious spin after that deflection has taken it behind for a corner. Going to be Jack Painter Andrews to enter the fray for South Melbourne. And it's a straight swap at right back for Morgan Evans. Painter Andrews, very versatile, predominantly wide player who can play further forward in the front three as well as at right back. Should offer a bit of attacking thrust. He chooses to get forward. Brennan. Shalamanov, Trenkov underneath it. Needed a bounce, but easy enough claim. And he wants to release his teammate early on the far side in Fraser Dunlop. See how high Dunlop was playing in comparison to Latsis, who's more of a defender by trade. Dunlop more of a forward, converted to wing back if he has to. Leach falls on the ball. It's tripped from behind by Bernarda. Baker. There's Courtney Perkins free on the left. Dan Edwards has to stay on side here. Steps back to Owen Stokes. Edwards. The options shrink and Stokes has to clip it to the other flank. Maker hangs one high. Well won by Lampard. Well, Lucas Burns going over. Clear free kick. No booking forthcoming from Pascalis Natis, despite the appeals of the Port Melbourne bench. Still, we know what these two can do over set pieces. Tough against South Melbourne, who so much aerial presence. Stokes. Oh, it's a great delivery, and Port Melbourne claw one back. Was that Nathan Hancock on the end of that one? He scored against his former club. That was a perfect ball in from Stokes. And Nathan Hancock did the rest. Absolutely pinpoint. Indeed, it is the former South Melbourne man. Mezzaruni goes to the bench. Ethan Brooks summoned. And that's all three substitution windows used up by Nick Marinos. So no further changes for the Sharks. And this game suddenly a live prospect once again. It looked like South Melbourne, the commanding fashion in which they started this second half, cruising to victory. give teams life, and Port Melbourne should certainly be encouraged by that. They are still in this with 15 minutes of regulation to play. They have to be sturdy defending these long throws. Hancock had a swing at it. Didn't catch it with his studs.
Andy, the winger! Andy, the winger! Andy! Now where? Where is Georgie?
Maker presenting the short option. Oh, they're baiting this South Melbourne press. I'm not sure if that's what they want to do. They play their way through. Edwards, neatly done so far. Courtney Perkins looking for Edwards again. Painter Andrews stepped in, but ball rebounds straight back to Port Melbourne. Leach. Maker. Stokes. Finding Charlie Leach. Stokes wants it back and gets it. Directing traffic in the middle of midfield. Dan Edwards around the outside. Past Painter Andrews. There were bodies in the middle, and Dan Edwards couldn't beat the first man off the cross. Tried a little cute cut back, but it was Mario Barcia who saw it coming. Hancock looking for Courtney Perkins. Good header from Marshall. Shalamanov-Trenkov has to come. Sitsonaris on his bike as well. Goalkeeper always favoured there, but not able to keep the ball in play, even if he intended to. Plenty of signs of life in the Sharkies yet. Maker. Stokes turns away from Brennan. Good touch from Fraser Dunlop. And the ball's trickled out of play there for Lucas Burns, who accelerated away, but just curved out then in from the boot of Fraser Dunlop. Lampard's throw. Leach. South Melbourne bench screaming for offside against Courtney Perkins, but the ball didn't reach him. Brooks. Sitsonaris nipping in, but Alex Baker on the cover for Port Melbourne. Leach sliding it through for Jackson Courtney Perkins. As Dan Edwards in support, he'll go himself here. Courtney Perkins to the byline. South Melbourne see it out. Painter Andrews knocks it behind for a Port Melbourne corner. And again, it's the dead ball mastery of Owen Stokes that will be called upon. Has a goal and an assist already this evening. Hancock's already scored once. Oh, it's a brilliant delivery, and Courtney Perkins was so close to the telling touch. Instead, it's come off a South Melbourne head. Glance behind for a corner on the opposite side, and Dan Edwards will take a similar in-swinger, you'd imagine. Edwards, lower ball in, and it's Burns who strikes true and into the pack of players. Dunlop out to Edwards, wants it on his left. He goes for goal, Edwards, and it's into the side netting. Well, the obvious option was to cross, but the left wing back on the opposite side of the pitch to where he usually plays, due to taking that in-swinging set piece, was of a different mind. Owen Stokes. Knocked into space, looking for Ethan Brooks. That was always a hopeful one. It's been a great reaction from Port Melbourne after going 3-1 down. They have enough left in the tank to force the issue here. Just under 10 minutes plus stoppages to play. Hancock's free header. Jankovic with the win. Edwards back. A bit of head tennis at the moment. Barcia. Bernarda. Cops the contact from Baker. Referee will call a free kick, I think. Nick Marinos is going to get a booking here, berating the officials. Well, perhaps it's his assistant who's gone into the book. One of the Port Melbourne coaching staff, anyway, having shown the yellow card. Protests have been fairly incessant all half. Hancock. Brennan. Archibald. Edwards. Courtney Perkins. What a ball from Edwards that is. And Courtney Perkins finds Owen Stokes in a pocket of space. And he can't find the killer pass. It was a great bit of ingenuity from Dan Edwards to punch that ball through the narrowest of gaps. That's what they work on in training. Got 3 forwards and to find them at every opportunity. Get that defence turn and running back towards their own goal. In between those pockets between defence and midfield. Nick Marinos playing ball boy. And Captain Edwards thought twice. Burns for Stokes. Oh, well contested by Lampard. And Mikola has been hit and miss today in those situations. Hasn't quite been his afternoon, although he does have an assist for the Jake Marshall header that put South Melbourne in front. Hancock chips it into a channel. Jankovic couldn't clear the danger. And now Dan Edwards lines up for goal. Dan Edwards! So close to an equaliser. Oh, Port Melbourne are putting it up to the league leaders. South Melbourne turn to Emil Payos. Andy Brennan, I think, will be the player coming off, and some instructions coming from Quintas for Noel Bernarda. An experienced campaigner, his 3rd spell with South Melbourne. Always puts in a real shift. Workhorse forward who provided the first goal today. Cutting the ball back for Noel Bernarda to slam home. And on comes Emil Payos, the former Melbourne City junior. An entirely different proposition. Very technically gifted. And Mikola hacks it away. Whistle had already gone. Port Melbourne trying to force the issue. Long high diagonal from Stokes. Baker couldn't get there. Painter Andrews see it over the line. South Melbourne lead hanging delicately in the balance at the moment. Ethan Brooks. It's kept in play by Painter Andrews. Oh, Edwards decided to let that run. Maybe he thought it was going out for a corner. Leach. Hancock. Maker. One for Stokes. They're shifting the ball. Really dynamic fashion at the moment, Port Melbourne. Can they find a way through? Maker. Well, as soon as they lose it, South Melbourne could be on for a fourth. So this one is just on a knife edge right now. I feel one more South Melbourne goal would seal it once and for all. Burns with a good win. Fraser Dunlop whips it in. Marko Jankovic stands tall and boots it away. Centre-back duo so accustomed to defending their own box and locking games down. Marshall in no man's land. Courtney Perkins. He's drawn Jake Marshall into unfamiliar territory. Edwards wouldn't sit for him. Crucial touch from Jankovic to repel it, and then Max Baker gives it away rather needlessly. Marinos is happy with the application and the way in which Port Melbourne are continuing to ask questions of this South Melbourne backline deep into the second half. It's Noel Bernarda's double that separates the teams. Barcia, Jankovic, and Javi Lopez elects not to take a touch. Edwards finds Ethan Brooks short off the throw. Former Paco and Green Gully youngster, Ethan Brooks. Courtney Perkins. Very much playing up top through the middle now. Such a versatile player. Dangerous attacker too. Brooks, Leach. Rebound falls kindly for Leach, but not for long. And the South Melbourne defences hold fast here. Emil Payos will go and trouble the goalkeeper, but it's a lovely first-time ball from Shalamanov-Trenkov. He's not always the most confident with his feet. He did very well there. Hancock. Free header for Jankovic. Hancock heads down to Stokes, turns it around the corner. Dunlop for Burns, and just run out of real estate on the right-hand side there. It's young Cooper Halfpenny. He's been promoted from the reserves last season. Who's preparing to come on. Has been seeing plenty of first-team action in the last month or two. Marshall. Great stooping header, Archibald. And then Sitsinaris. He's onside here. It's George Sitsinaris looks for the back post. Shalamanov-Trenkov couldn't get there. And Noel Bernarda had an open goal, but he didn't know it. He comes harmlessly back off the Argentine's midriff and falls into the grateful arms of the prone goalkeeper. Unbelievable. South Melbourne should be 4 and clear. Instead, they've left the door ajar. Edwards for Courtney Perkins. It's Lucas Burns who can't find room for the strike. Jordan Lampard not giving anything away. Well, substitution, Sitsanaris off. Cooper halfpenny on, a defensive-minded change from Quintas. Looking to make the point safe. Midfielder on for a forward. That one's crossed the line for a South Melbourne throw. Maker holding on to Bernardo and gives away a cheap free kick. Does South Melbourne commit anyone forward here, or they try and keep it in the corner? I think the latter. They will pull out every trick in the book they can. See their team through stoppage time. Very aggressive tackle. I think that's Fraser Dunlop who's been booked. Well, that just takes more time off the clock. Bit of a silly challenge. And he's going to require treatment too. And he gets to stay on the pitch here because a yellow card's been shown. So Port Melbourne shooting themselves in the foot by bringing the game's momentum to a halt. Of course, all of this time should be added on by the referee. In addition,
Drop 10 this way. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Hooper, Chap, 2 minutes, come on. Jake, Jankovic, 2 fucking minutes, come on. Chap, 2 minutes, come on. Get him Neil. 2 minutes more of utmost focus and application is all South Melbourne need. That's what Esteban Quintas is drilling into his team. Well, it's handy to have a Spanish speaker to communicate with the likes of Bernardo and Mario Barcia, who's come across to speak to his coach. Mikola will keep this in the corner as long as he can. Bernardo back onto his feet now. And away comes Charlie Leach with the ball. And Dan Edwards finds Ethan Brooks. Edwards presenting for the overlap. Instead, it's still Brooks. If you'd just taken the ball inside there, maybe Edwards could have made room for an extra number. Instead, Port Melbourne will make do with a corner. What can Owen Stokes produce? Has he got more magic in that right boot? Into the front post. Required 2 South Melbourne defenders on the line to head that one away from danger. Fraser Dunlop onto the loose ball. And Ross Archibald, ever the organiser, former Shark. Setting South Melbourne back up. Maker will hang this one high. Lopez underneath it, goes for the punch. Bernardo, simple little layoff. Marshall cushions it down for Emil Payos, who's brought down cynically. No whistle. There's a whistle gone for the free kick there. Indeed it has. My apologies.
And Jack Painter-Andrews will take his ceded duties to Marshall. Marshall looking for Bernarda up top. Right. He's been pinged, Alex Baker, again for holding on to Noel Bernarda. Well, that's the bait for the ages. With attacking players will say that's a free kick every day of the week. Defenders will say he's backing into me. What am I meant to do? So one of those 50-50 calls, and it goes South's way. And Noel Bernarda knows every trick in the trade. Not only is he brilliantly talented attacker, Port have only left 3 in the wall here, including 2 of their more diminutive midfielders. Now 4th comes, and Max Mikola will fancy his chances from this sort of range, but it's straight to Shalamanov, Trenkov, and that's all we've got time for at JL Murphy. South Melbourne have hung on for a very hard-fought 3 points, and the Port Melbourne players collapse to the turf. They have given everything this evening, but it hasn't been enough to knock off the league leaders. A huge result for South Melbourne. And after Avondale's loss today, will take them further ahead in the title race. They are now 6 points clear of the Avengers atop the NPL Victoria table. Heidelberg and Hume City both on 22 points, so 7 points adrift. And they face each other in the 7 p.m. kickoff, so a chance for either of those teams to leapfrog Avondale into second spot and claw back some ground. But South Melbourne will celebrate this one heartily. They know just how hard they had to work to get this result over the line. No Harrison Sawyer. They still knocked 3 goals away. And when Stokes had the Sharks off to a flyer with a brilliant free kick inside the first 2 minutes, South Melbourne, an instant reply from Noel Bernarda. 1-1 it stayed until the break. South Melbourne came out firing with a frenetic press and a barrage of set pieces, and Port Melbourne couldn't deal with it. Jake Marshall with the go-ahead goal. Noel Bernarda nabbing his second after Nathan Hancock was caught dwelling on the ball. Former South Melbourne utility Hancock replied with a goal of his own. But it finishes Port Melbourne 2, South Melbourne 3 in this local derby. Thank you for tuning in on the NPL Victoria live stream. My name is Josh Parrish. It's been a pleasure to bring you this action live tonight, and we've got another game coming up over at Broadmeadows as Heidelberg United take on Hume City, so make sure you flick across and enjoy that one. South Melbourne, 9 wins, 2 draws from 11 games. They have been imperious so far this season, and their title charge continues apace.